Hello, I'm Dave Feinlieb, and this is Beyond the Shelf. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. You can find out more about how we're helping leading brands and retailers build retail media and product detail page content faster than ever before at itsrapid.ai. My guest on today's show is Margaux Logan, SVP, Head of Omnichannel and Emerging Marketplaces at Publicis Group. Margaux has a wealth of experience from her previous roles as the marketing lead at Amazon and at Unilever, where she managed iconic brands such as Caress, Suave, Clear Hair Care, and Hellmann's. She holds a bachelor's degree from Colgate University and an MBA from Cornell. Please enjoy my conversation with Margaux Logan. Margaux, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cornell, I have to say, I don't know if I told you this, but I did my undergrad at Cornell and have survived a couple of fairly cold winters. As beautiful as it is up there, It can be a little chilly in the winter.
I used to joke because there were always a few Colgate undergrads who were in every class at Cornell, and we always would be like, they know that we can survive this. There's nothing like having to trudge uphill both ways,
Exactly.
In the snow,
exactly.
Like you can, you know that you can do it. So there were always a few of us in every class. So
that's exactly it. Once you've had a few of those winters, I can handle it.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to be talking with a fellow Cornellian, and it's great to have you on the show. Take us back. How'd you get into the space?
So the way back machine is that I was an undergrad sociology and anthropology major, also theater. We'll do that. We'll get into that in a second. But I always liked the study of people and why they did things, but more from a, sociological standpoint and culturally. But I also was not going to be an academic. So I was like, what is the translation of that into business? And that translation is, of course, marketing. And my whole career and what I focus in the most on is, why do people do what they do? And how do you make them do another thing or whatever thing you're looking to make them do from a marketing standpoint? So that's how I got into the space. And then along the way, I've made decisions and or been ready for the right choices and right moves for different places I've gone in my career. So started out doing very communications focused work at AT&T. I launched WorldNet service, which was like the answer to AOL. So I'm aging myself a smidge, but also cool thing to be at the dawn of the internet, like
100%.
Really interesting stuff to get to do as a small marketing lady back at the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
But missed the ownership. And when I was working when I was working at AT&T, I missed having the opportunity to talk about, why am I speaking to this person, or why would this product be the right product, or what should we be offering them? And so once I did a little investigation of what does that really mean, who gets to do that, brand management is really what popped. So at the time, I'm from New Jersey, and Unilever is a huge company in New Jersey. And I had automatically been like, wow, they have beauty and food, like two of my favorite things. Amazing.
Right.
Had targeted them, but they really wanted people who had MBAs. So that's how I ended up going back, getting my MBA, getting into Unilever, and then kind of along the way, getting into these other roles. So that's how I've gotten into the marketing space.
We're going to ask about the theater. It sounds like the people and the why. Those are great themes on and sort of what drew you to what you were doing.
Yep.
You got to tell us about the theater part. I feel like the breadcrumb is here, so I'm going to take you up on it.
I definitely dangled that carrot so well, right? But
right.
I love theater. If anyone offered me a Broadway role like right now, I'd be like, see, I love this, but also would do that in a second. So I had always done theater as a kid and in community theater and got a theater degree. So now when people see it on my resume, they're like, what? Why do you have, what did you do that for? But it's been great because what other thing are we doing beyond presenting and showcasing what the capabilities are and having to make sure that people understand things properly? So a lot of the techniques that I learned with the theater degree, I also did a lot of improv before I had a kid and had no time in my life. But that has all that yes and mentality, like that really resonates in business and in the innovative spaces that I've been able to work in the last few years. So oddly enough, it is very relevant. And, it's a fun little quirky thing to be able to talk about too.
The good news with improv is I feel as parents, we get to improv almost all the time.
Good Lord, yes. Yeah.
So now I have one other question about public speaking and theater. That's a really hard skill for a lot of people in their careers.
Yeah.
It sounds like maybe something that came naturally for you, or was it something you had to work on, or a bit of both?
It was definitely something that came naturally for me. I just always loved the applause and maybe you can trace it back. I'm an only child. Maybe there's a little of that in there too, but I always loved getting that spotlight and being able to really just be front and center. And that's part of the job I have now, has been so focused on being out there in the industry, and either it's writing or speaking or just being a voice. And it's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed that part. That's a nice part of being on this end of my career, right? So.
Yeah, 100%. Now I'm going to ask you about Publicis in a moment. Will you give us the lead up to that? You've had so many great roles at so many great and iconic brands and retailers, of course. Tell us a little about that.
Yes. So sorry, because I didn't want to belabor the how did Margaux get where she is part of the story. But after undergrad, and after grad, went to Cornell, got my MBA, and worked at Unilever right out of the gate. And I knew that I wanted the classical CPG experience. Like when I got to Cornell, I know a lot of people go to on grad school and are like, I'm not sure what I want to focus on. I was like, nope, I am not a career switcher. I'm a marketer. I just want to get into this other angle and get the skill set and the chops that people will trust that I'm ready to do the marketing. So Unilever is amazing. Like all of those big CPG companies, I had an MBA, but I didn't really have the MBA until I did the job and truly understood as a brand management person, you own the business from A to Z. I mean, I had no idea. I was thinking like, I'll make a couple of decisions here and there. No, supply chain, recipe, like everything, anything and everything you just are owning. So it's been great. And it was great training. Spent 8 years there, did all sorts of work on all these different brands, and really learned what it takes to build a business and run it. But then after 8 years, I was like, wow, I am doing the same thing over and over again. Just different categories, and certainly you're learning things along the way, but I was starting to try to focus on digital and the digital aspect of the brands I was running. And they were like, that's nice, dear. This is, $80,000 of your budget versus the many hundreds of millions. Let's focus on what's important here. So I took a chance and started looking around to see, I'd seen a bunch of my compatriots move to Facebook and Google, but I wanted to get into something that was not just sales. So this role for Amazon popped up. And again, it was a job that they didn't have a job description for it. It was a brand new role. I was the first person from outside of Amazon, and they wanted somebody who could take the data, and Amazon being so data focused, this is not surprising to anyone who knows anything about Amazon, take the data from a retail perspective and a media perspective and make the story to make sure that your brand understood what was happening on the platform and how could they adjust it the way they needed their business to grow. So big departure, because before that I had been, developing like fragrances for body wash. Like, I was doing the business aspect, but not the true analytical details to tell the story. So it was great. It's a little scary to take that job, but but it was great because I knew it was going to be a good learning experience. And it was great also to be there because most of the people at Amazon had never worked as a brand manager or on the client side. So for me, it was wonderful because they were like, wait, when do they do planning? Why do they do this? And that's like, oh my God, guys, let's take several steps back and let's talk about how this works so that we can sell better and we can tell them the story better of what they need so that you're truly a partner. So that was an amazing experience. I did a tiny bit of work on AWS just because I wanted to see what a true marketing role would be at Amazon. But I started to see some of the agencies pop up with job descriptions, looking for somebody who could now translate the publisher side for the agency side, because commerce wasn't quite what it is now. So this is 5 years ago. And I literally saw a job description for the job I have and reached out to HR on LinkedIn, was like, hello, I think I am this person. And they were like, good Lord, yes, please come in. And I met with Amy Lanzi, and she was setting up this group, Publicis Commerce, within Publicis. And now it's been off to the races ever since. And it's been amazing because it was exactly what I needed to do in terms of what's the next piece of my triangle, which is working on the agency side and understanding this angle of the business and how do you truly support your clients. And you're being paid to be the smartest person in the room and really understand everything for your clients on behalf of your clients. It's been awesome. And just to see how it's grown and how commerce and retail media has just exploded in the last 5 years has been
incredible,
unbelievable. So yeah, so it's been great.
Now, do you miss the brand and the retailer parts of the puzzle?
There are some things I miss. I sometimes miss being close to the business and being able to, because right now I'm still more in a consultative role, which I have loved a lot. Like I like kind of popping in and out and helping where needed. But I do miss being able to be the person that makes the decision sometimes. So there are pieces of that I miss. I did love product innovation. It's so fun because I used to do, all sorts of fun consumer focus groups and, like, let me go to this person's apartment and can you show me your shower? Let me see, like, how do you wash your hair? Like bizarre things, but useful when you're developing products. So
real customer research.
When you're curious about people,
you want to know that,
so I do miss that a lot.
What a great mix of experiences you've had and a perfect tee up to talk about what you're doing at Publicis. Tell us about Publicis Commerce. What do you do and what does the day-to-day look like?
So Publicis Commerce is a center of excellence for group. And Publicis Commerce is, or group, I should say, is a holding company. There are many operating brands underneath. So we sit at the center and I talk about us kind of as Switzerland, like we are responsible for helping everybody build up their commerce practice. Now they don't need it to the same extent, but like, what is commerce? What do you need to know about it? What's happening in the space? What kind of technology is out there? What's the story that you need to be telling your clients? And so that they understand commerce even more so that you can help them build their business. Because certainly when I got there and even now, there are myriad retail media networks that you can invest within. How do you figure out what's the right one? How much? How do you make sure that your dollars are being spent properly and really working hard for you? So that's our job, is to figure that out and give the different client teams the tools they need to build the business so they can concentrate on running the business for their customers and their clients. And we can do the other piece, which is, what do you need to know? What's going on out there? So it's like a cool spot to be in where you need to be in the know and you need to help. But I'm not necessarily in the day-to-day. If we need to be, we can be, and certainly happy to help. So it's been great because I meet with fantastically smart people across group all day long and all week long.
Back to your people roots.
Yep. And it can be anything from, like, my day can be anything from meeting from different retail media networks that maybe they're new, maybe there are different partners. So I work a lot with some of the, they're like the last mile partners. So I work a lot with Yelp or DoorDash or GoPuff and figuring out like what's going on in their space. I'm also, unsurprisingly, since I worked at Amazon, I'm the Amazon lady internally. So I work with Amazon very closely to make sure we understand what's happening there and that everybody within Publicis knows what's going on outside of the commercials. Like that's a different group, but more from a strategic sense. What do we need to know? How can we make sure that we're utilizing Amazon to the utmost? So it's kind of a little of everything all the time.
I love it. You've got the perfect spot in the industry. It does sound super fun. Give us retail media 101. I'm trying to decide where to place my budgets. I've now got a vast number of retail media networks that I could invest in. I've got search, I've got creative, display, video, CTV.
Yeah.
How do I think about the investment and what do I need to know?
I mean, the very first thing that you're thinking about, if you're an endemic brand, so that means you're being sold directly on the actual network, you are making sure that all of your P's and Q's are minded so that you've got all of the inventory ready to go. All the supply chain part is all set, because it's great to have all this media and investment, but if you don't actually have product that you can sell, who cares? So that's first and foremost.
Easy to forget.
I mean, it's easy, not as much now. I mean, I'm sure the people who are listening to this are going to be like, but like we always talk about brilliant basics. You've got to have that down pat. But the brilliant basics now can mean more than just the product. It can be, are you ready if you're sending them to your website, if you're a non-endemic brand, or to your brand store page or whatever it is, you better make sure you're ready for people to click through and that they know what they're getting to. So have that stuff ready. And then after that, it's like, who are you trying to talk to? And are they the right audience? So people again, and why do they care? Like, what is it that you're answering for them that is specific? So it's a little bit of, or a lot of, figuring out like, who are the right places to place your biggest bets on? And then from there, it's understanding like, okay, where do I have to make the investment? Because maybe I've got obligations to fulfill, or that's where the majority of my audience is. And then a little bit of testing, like where do I want to go? What do I want to see? And see how it works. So, is TikTok the right place for me? Or what kind of wacky thing can I do that's not the norm, but might offer me some information on how people are shopping or how people would be shopping for me? So I try personally, I mean, there's so many smart media people within Publicis. I try and come at it again with the angle of the brand and the consumer, of saying, what's the reason to believe that you're giving them? So why should they be talking to you specifically on that platform? So I try and look at it from that angle first.
Where does that reason come from? If you're someone who's maybe worked in analytics, or you've worked on supply chain, or you've worked in other parts of the business, and you go, where does the story and the reason come from? Is that from the customer interactions or the brand itself, or where do you find that?
So, I mean, certainly the brand should have that information because they've done a whole lot of work.
We hope
figuring out, but they've done a whole lot of work figuring that out and figuring out what it is and why they're offering the product they are. But the analytics people probably have a good handle on that as well. So, especially in the retail media space, people shop differently depending upon what retailer, right? So figuring out what keywords or what they're searching for or what categories that they how they get down to you in the first place, and the way that we're able to get to that granular level of detail now gives you a lot of insight into both how the retailers are showcasing their products and your products, but also how are those consumers in your category looking for you. So it's a combination of the analytics. It's not so much anymore that you can only be like, the brand love. Like, it's not that anymore. It's a combination of both to be able to say like, hey, there's a lot to be said and found from the raw data that my analytics peeps can give me, but there's so much to be found just also from like understanding your consumer and really getting yourself into the weeds there.
Now, if you're thinking as a brand about an Amazon, a Walmart Connect, and KPM, and you've got a number of others, what are some of the trade-offs or differences or maybe opportunities that could be different on one of these channels versus another?
I mean, for me, it's going to, unsurprisingly, now that we've talked at this time, like its audience is really, I think, what the difference is. That's the first level. From a brand standpoint, the second piece is what is it offering you that's more the top of the funnel stuff that you can do more from a branding perspective. Because I feel like, again, Brilliant Basics is the retail aspect, but the Brilliant Basics now is that lower funnel stuff. So what 5 years ago, people were like, oh my God, search, what is this? Like, let me get more, there's so many details we can get into. Now there are so many ways that people have figured that out and how they can just turn things on and off on a dime. So now for me, it's more interesting and more of a place to concentrate where what things can you do that are top of funnel? What are ways to get in front of a consumer that maybe you weren't thinking about? So again, I am an Amazon groupie at this point because of the fact I work with them so much, but all the stuff that they do with Thursday Night Football and like the scannable QR codes or just adding it directly to cart. That stuff is crazy because I don't know how many people are actually doing that yet, but for sure there is the grain of truth that is there. Amazon won't do anything without the data behind it, but that kind of thing of thinking where is the next place that people need to be or are thinking and are in the mind space to be shopping. Like that's the next frontier of like, what cool stuff can we do? And that's from a marketing angle, like that for brand people, they should be like, whoa, that's super awesome. But they're probably not thinking about as much because they're so busy with the rest of their enormous businesses.
The other pieces. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a great insight. These are so many good topics for brands and retailers. Talk to us if you would. You're in a lot of these meetings with the retail media networks, the brands.
Yeah.
What are some things that stand out for you that either brands or retailers are doing really well?
I think the fact that people are having these conversations. So this is not me trying to educate most of the time now. I mean, all of these big guys really understand this. I mean, they've got amazing people on their end as well that are very smart and have been doing this for a long time. So they also have evolved alongside. So now it's more the conversations are what's the next step? What can we do with the data in a different way? How can we slice and dice it? People talk about clean rooms a lot. Please don't ask me any like dirty details about the DNA of like a clean room, but from an understanding of how those work and how you can combine data sets, I can get like the 3 levels deep of it, but like there's a lot to be said there. That's where the next phase of understanding how to use the data in a different way. The other thing, and again, like as a giant brand nerd, what is super fun is the in-store angle. So we spent the last 5 years being like, yeah, it's all online. Now it's all about how do you combine the in-store aspect to the online aspect? And you've asked people for all this information on themselves through loyalty programs and all that stuff. So now there's an expectation from a consumer. It's like, well, you know all this stuff about me. Why are you giving me stupid offerings? You know what I'm doing. You know what I need. Like, let's go. So I think that and answering that consumer expectation is kind of the next place that people need to be thinking. And I'm starting to see that as well. I mean, certainly from an in-store perspective, there's lots of cool stuff that people are starting to do. So
super important. So last question for you before I give you my wrap-up questions here. Content, which is a topic near and dear to my heart. What role do you see that playing in retail media, digital shelf, also in store, frankly?
Yeah. I mean, content has always been, content is king. I feel like I'm like, that's not that new of a phrase, right? But like, it is still the fact, because certainly what we have seen along the last few years of making sure if you're sending people and you're spending money on search, don't send them to a PDP that looks terrible or doesn't answer the questions in the right way. So content alone, we know is super important. Now it's kind of the interesting phase is what content, how can I change it? What is AI going to do for me so I can just go boop and change something quickly and I don't even have to go back to the drawing board and revise things. Again, being able to turn things on and off on a dime, really interesting ways to use technology and make your content better. So lots to be done there and lots to be said there. And I think also, again, like how much more into the details of the data can you get? So where are those tiny pieces of information that I'm getting out of my data? What do I know about my consumer and how they're shopping that I can then make sure I'm inputting into the content? We've been doing that along the way with Profitero and with some of the other pieces of technology that we own at and Publicis. But I mean, there's more to be done. Like, what's the next phase of that? Where are we going to go with that? So that's what I see the most.
I love it. All right. Now for my wrap up questions. The first one of which is, and I know it's hard to pick only two, but which two people have influenced you the most in your professional career?
I will say the very first one that's influenced me the most is my mom, which she's been a marketer or was a marketer. She is now retired and enjoying retirement, but she was a working mother, and I grew up in the 80s and 90s. That was not necessarily the norm. So she's been a person in the industry for a very long time. So I always saw her and what her career did and what she got to do in her career as super interesting. I mean, I remember she worked for AT&T, going to a Whitney Houston commercial shoot with her, like in the mid 80s or early, I don't know, I don't remember anymore, but like, and seeing how interesting it was, like crazy cool stuff to get to do. So that turned me on to what is possible and that what a career could look like. So I have to say her first and foremost. And I'm going to say a blanket of the three ladies I've last worked for in the last jobs I've had. So I worked for an incredibly intelligent woman at Amazon named Jennifer Davis, so buttoned up, so smart, and so willing to utilize my skills in a way that I was like, wow, she just pulls the best out of the people that she works with, which I really appreciated. And then Amy Lanzi and Jill Cruz, who I both, in the last 5 years, I've worked with both of them so closely. And I've been so lucky to see like truly what innovative and just, I mean, like ahead of the curve thinking is. So that's really leveled up my game, and also not afraid to roll up their sleeves and get into it. So, I mean, just even at their high level, that's been very gratifying to see, because you're like, no, you can always be learning and doing and be such a role model for many people. So anyway, sorry I had to cheat you a little bit, but
those are great. And listen, finding people who can help us be our best is so amazing when we have that. So that's a great one. Thanks for sharing that. Now, if you do get time, when you do get some time outside of work and family, favorite hobbies, what do you like to do?
Well, so I am getting bigger into tennis again. I'm big into tennis. I like to play. And my son, who is 8.5, is very into roller coasters and amusement parks. So that's been like a fun last few years, now that he's pretty tall for his age. So that's been useful. So now we like to go and kind of hit up amusement parks and do that in their spare time.
That is cool. I love that one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, and if our listeners want to find out more about Publicis and what you're doing, or reach you online, what's the best way for them to do that?
Definitely LinkedIn is the way to go. Both for myself and Publicis Commerce, we are always posting things. And I always like to say, I joke that Q3 and Q4, like the season of Margaux, because there's a lot of Amazon things that happen. So I am very active and lots of little writings that I'll be posting about various and sundry things. So if not me, Publicis Commerce has lots going on. So both of those are great places to find out more about the things that Publicis Commerce is talking about in the industry, as well as just some of the great people I work with and their intelligent things that they've been posting too.
Incredible. So more learning. We'll include some links in the show notes. And I, of course, want to give a shout out to Andrea at Illume Group, who put us in touch. Thank you, Andrea, for that. And I've really enjoyed our conversation. I think the big takeaway for me is people. Start with that. And if you keep that curiosity with that and the connection, whether it's the customer or the viewers, shoppers, all of those things, the people we work with, your people have influenced you, then that's the magic. So Thank you for that, and a great source of inspiration. Margaux Logan with Publicis Commerce, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Sierra Nevada, Revlon, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.